pick and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, in hopes that we help you prevail in the 2021 fantasy season. I'm your host, as always, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me every single week is Cody Repass.
How's it going, Nick? I'm excited to talk about our draft recap.
And Nick Capsalis.
Same as Cody, man. How we doing?
We're doing great. We're all doing great. It's 10 o'clock p.m. right now. We just did our fantasy draft that all three are in, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. We have some news for the show that happened this week, some unfortunate injuries in the football community that we need to talk about. But first, if you want to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, you could find us at PrimeTimeFFPod. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. If you want to support the show by listening to us, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcast and look up PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. If you're on Apple, please give us a 5-star review. It does mean a lot. And also, if you want to watch the show and look at the cool graphics that Nick makes and all the stuff that I do from a video element, you could watch us on YouTube. Our shows air on Tuesdays, Fridays, and starting on week 1, we'll have a live show every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. It's going to be 11 to 12. We're going to give you our daily fantasy picks. We're going to give you late start sits. If you have any questions, hop in the chat. If your lineup needs some help, we'll even help you with your lineup. Maybe eventually we'll take some callers and some questions. So watch us live, listen to us on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and let us help you prevail in the fantasy football season. So guys, we've got to get into some news, some unfortunate news. We do want to start with some injuries. So Irv Smith, an injury update on him. Unfortunately, he did have surgery. The Vikings are prepared for him to miss the remainder of the 2021 season. Irv Smith was a tight end that a lot of people seem to love and target in those late round drafts as a tight end sleeper. So Cody, I'm going to start with you. What's the fallout with Irv Smith? How does this affect the fantasy community when it comes to those tight ends?
Man, once again, the same team that just lost Dobbins for me lost Irv Smith. He was one of my high-end sleeper tight ends I really liked. As soon as Kyle Rudolph left, he's super young. He's super talented. I hate to see him go down with an injury like this, just because I thought he was set for a remarkable season. He wasn't ever going to get 100-plus targets with Thielen and Jefferson there and Dalvin Cook running the ball, but he's such a premier athlete, and at tight end, it's just a shame. I hope he's able to come back. He's such a young player. I'm sure he will, though.
It's a meniscus injury. I know it was originally reported that he was going to be out a couple weeks, and then today we got the news it'd be closer to 4 to 5 months. They did trade for Chris Herndon last week. So, Cody, as an owner of Irv Smith, unless you've probably dropped him at this point, but is Chris Herndon a guy that you'd look to fill that role if you had Irv Smith, or if you have a fantasy draft coming up? Is Herndon somebody you'd be targeting if you were thinking about Irv Smith?
I don't think so. It's going to take him a little while to learn the playbook. Actually, in the final couple games last year, Tyler Conklin, the other tight end in Minnesota, actually out-targeted Irv Smith. Irv is just so good around the goal line. He caught a couple touchdown passes. Tyler Conklin is a true deep sleeper as a tight end, too. I would not draft him as a starter. But he's a guy that I could see being okay. I've always believed in Chris Herndon's upside as a tight end. He's a premier athlete, just like Irv Smith. Just never could put it all together. So I don't know. He's not a guy I'm targeting right now. I'm taking a wait and see approach. I think he's better left on the waiver wire.
Nick, you are a Jets fan. Chris Herndon, a former Jet. Would you take a fly on Herndon, or is he a guy that you're not touching in fantasy when it comes to those tight ends?
So there's clearly a talent level there with Herndon, but for the past few years, we've been hoping that he would take it up to the next level. And with the lack of receiving talent that the Jets did have, I'm kind of disappointed to see that he hasn't stepped up. Even though I do think Kirk Cousins is an obvious upgrade at quarterback, I just think that offense is too crowded right now for me to take a shot drafting Chris Herndon. If it comes to week one and he's doing well in the season, he might be someone I look to pick up on the waiver if I had one of those later tight ends that didn't do as well as I was hoping. But for right now, I'm avoiding him in drafts.
So who's the later tight end that you would target in your drafts if it's not Irv Smith, or not going to be Irv Smith anymore, but who's somebody that you would target late in those drafts if you're not getting those top 4 tight ends, top 5 tight ends?
So we all know that I'm a big Higbee guy. I actually drafted him. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Higbee's someone that I like in that later parts of the draft. Mike Gesicki's another guy in Miami. I think Tua will rely a lot more on the tight end this year than he did last year. I could see the potential with him. Jonnu Smith's another guy. I think Mac Jones will look to target. I think he's the perfect scheme fit for the type of offense Belichick runs. And, it will be a balance with Hunter Henry and him, but the one of those two that winds up breaking out, I do believe will be Jonnu. So I think I would put more of my draft capital into him versus Chris Herndon.
All right. Well, best of luck to Irv Smith in that injury recovery, and we do hope that he does get healthy sooner rather than later. We have more injuries. T.Y. Hilton, this is another piece of news that's come out in the last week. He kind of tweaked his neck or something with his neck in practice about a week ago, and he was put on the IR this morning after having neck surgery. I don't think it's major neck surgery since he's not out for the season, so it's got to be something minor that just had to be readjusted or put into place, but it's still neck surgery. He's still on the IR. The Colts just keep going down. It's like injury after injury. So, Nick, what do you make of this T.Y. Hilton injury? How does this affect that Colts offense overall?
For me, this entire season, the only person that I was investing true draft capital in was Jonathan Taylor. So this doesn't change much at the wide receiver position, but Michael Pittman is a year 2 receiver that I could see stepping up. So he might be someone that in the later rounds I would look to target maybe a slight round earlier. But I still think that T.Y., when he comes off the IR, will play some sort of a role in this offense. I think that it will limit his production. But I do think Wentz is going to have to rely on somebody, and I'm hoping the connection is with Pittman rather than bringing T.Y. back to that level necessarily. So Pittman would be someone I'd look for, and I'm very closely going to be watching the waiver with these guys because I think that they're going to be down in games early. That defense also suffered a major injury at linebacker, so I could see them doing a lot, having a high pass volume early on in the season. So I could look to target one of those wide receivers. I think it will be Pittman. I don't know if Campbell will be the breakout guy, but I think someone on that offense is going to hit. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah, and T.Y. is only on the IR for 3 weeks, so as of this date, he could play in week 3, but we don't know how serious that injury is. I was avoiding all the Colts wide receivers. I'm definitely not avoiding Jonathan Taylor, never was, but I wasn't touching any of these Colts wide receivers. So, Cody, where do you think that T.Y. Hilton should be drafted now, or is he still draftable in standard leagues of 6 bench spots, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs? Like, is he draftable?
I don't think he is. As you saw in my players to avoid list, T.Y. Hilton was very high on that list just because I am not a fan of his skill set with Carson Wentz, especially now that he's hurt. Carson Wentz has been hurt. They have no chemistry. It took forever for Hilton to get on the same page with Rivers last year. I am avoiding T.Y. Hilton at all costs, but I actually really, really like Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell because Zach Pascal is also hurt. They are really down at the wide receiver position. We will definitely be talking about them as a stack for DFS purposes for week 1. They're a team that I am very interested in. All their players are extremely cheap. Easily stackable, and you get to bring back with the Seahawks. So obviously, there is definitely
they have no corners. There's no corners. There's no corners.
Yeah,
nothing. I can play corner. I can go play cornerback
upside
for Seahawks. I'll go play corner for the Seahawks. I'll suit up next week. I'm good to go.
They have some high upside though. I'm really interested to see who kind of takes over on that as the number 1 target.
Well, speaking of targets, we were told to Andy Dalton is going to be the QB1 at the beginning of the season for week 1. Bears general manager Ryan Pace confirmed that in a quote. So it does seem like Justin Fields will not be taking the field as of yet. Cody, you're a Justin Fields owner in definitely our league. I think in a couple other leagues. So as a Justin Fields owner, what do you make of this? Is this something that worries you, or is this something that you're like, I just want Andy Dalton to fail as soon as possible?
No, I'm not rooting for him to fail. I just don't see him succeeding long term in that offense. I think we see Fields sooner rather than later. They traded up in the first round to get him. He is a insane talent, and he showed it in the preseason when he got to play with these guys. He's going to make all the receivers better. He's going to make Darno Mooney better. And the hot take from me, I've already told these guys, they go to the Los Angeles Rams in week 1. Andy Dalton is likely to get slapped around and it not be pretty. I could see Justin Fields starting in week 2 when Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals roll into town and they have no defense. They might want to feature Fields and let him get off on the right foot. I am all in on Justin Fields. I think even if for some reason Andy Dalton keeps his job for the first 6 weeks, I think second half of the season he can take you to a fantasy championship.
Nick, if you're an owner of Allen Robinson or Darnell Mooney or any of these other Bears players, are you a little worried with Andy Dalton at quarterback? Are you kind of slipping them to the bench for those first few weeks just to see what happens? Or how confident are you in any of those Bears players in your starting lineup?
So as far as it pertains to Allen Robinson, if you actually took a look at his career arc, there's a very good debate that Andy Dalton, at this current point, is the best quarterback he's ever played with. He has had a horrendous stretch of quarterback and a massive target share with every single one of them. I fully expect Allen Robinson to hit close to 150 targets this year, especially given the extra game. It would not be out of character for him to do that. Darnell Mooney is someone that I've been teetering with all offseason. Because of where the draft capital is for him, I'm very comfortable taking him. But with someone like Justin Fields, it is it's very unnatural for a rookie quarterback to be able to carry a workload with 2 good wide receivers. As much as I believe in the talent of Mooney, I just think Allen Robinson is still going to get all those targets. As far as it pertains to Andy Dalton, I think it is an upgrade for Allen Robinson. Not over Justin Fields, but over previous quarterbacks. So I'm still comfortable taking him. I do agree with Cody, however, that it's going to be very, very soon that Justin Fields takes over this starting job. And I'm very excited for Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney, I'm still a little on the fence with, but where his draft capital is, still feel comfortable taking him.
Are you starting Allen Robinson week 1 against Jalen Ramsey?
That is an excellent question. It would really have to depend on the depth of my wide receiver. That's as much as I could say. It would really have to depend who else I could go with, but I still do think he's going to see an absurd amount of targets. So I wouldn't be scared to start him, but I would not expect the breakout week that you would hope for.
Cody, how scared would you be to start Allen Robinson against the best corner in the league?
Not scared at all.
Not scared at all?
He lives on those 10-yard routes. Don't sit your studs. That's always been my motto. You play the guys that you draft early. Allen Robinson is a guy that, in a PPR league, he's going to catch 5 balls for 50 yards every week. If he gets you in the end zone, he has a great week. Some weeks he might catch 10 balls. It really just depends. Their defense is probably going to be bad. People are used to the Bears having a good defense. Their secondary is atrocious. They only kept 4 cornerbacks for some odd reason. I don't understand how you can only have 4 cornerbacks. This Bears team will be throwing a lot, and that's why I think Andy Dalton will not last long. But I agree with Nick. Allen Robinson is going to be a monster with Justin Fields.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm sitting Allen Robinson. Jalen Ramsey is a nightmare. I had DK Metcalf against him twice last year. Nightmare. Hopkins against him. Nightmare. I don't want any part of Jalen Ramsey. If he's on the field, if he's healthy, I want no part of him. So if you have another receiver over there and you're probably drafting 5-6 receivers, it's got to be somebody that could get you those 15 points. So I'm not playing Allen Robinson week 1. I don't have him in any league, so I'm not playing him. But I think that the whole football and fantasy community loves rookies. I think as football fans, we love these rookies that are drafted in the first 5 rounds. People want to see Trevor Lawrence. That's why he's going to be on Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football. People want to see Justin Fields. They want to see Trey Lance in San Francisco. We have an obsession with shiny new objects, and that's not just in the football world, but that's in the overall world. We love new things. We get bored very easily as humans. So when you get these new shiny new toys in, you want to see them and you want to play with them. So a lot of people are going to want Justin Fields to start. And when you're watching the red zone and Fields does take his first snap, whenever it is, the red zone's cutting right to the Bears game. So I don't know if it's going to be week 1. I wouldn't put him out there against Aaron Donald and Ramsey. That's a mistake. You don't put him out there. But as Cody said, the Bengals that are probably going to have a bottom 5-10 defense, that could be the game. So we will see how that shakes out. But right now, I want to kick it to our draft recap. We did just do a draft about 8:30 to 9:30 Eastern time. So we all did our draft. We have our teams right here. And we're going to talk about our draft strategy, which should help you guys a little bit because we each have different draft strategies that could help you in the next week or so, whenever your draft is, whether it's targeting a player, a position at certain rounds. So we're each going to go through our draft strategy, why we picked certain guys. Are we happy with our draft? And we're going to give each other letter grades. So let's start with Nick. So, Nick, let's pull up this draft recap. There we go. It's on the screen. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you see Nick's draft recap, everybody that he drafted, and there's going to be a graphic on Twitter. If you're listening through audio, we're going to talk it through. So, Nick, first off, let's talk about your draft strategy. You had the 7th pick in our league. It's a keeper league. You have to keep one player 6th round or later the year before. So you kept Chase Claypool from the Steelers. So, Nick, what was your draft strategy going into this, knowing that you had the 7th pick and knowing that you already had a viable wide receiver on your team?
So knowing that Chase Claypool was going to be my keeper, I knew immediately I had to double up at running back. It's already a very thin position. And because I didn't have someone that I trusted keeping and starting every single week at running back, I chose to go with a wide receiver that I expected to break out. I started off my draft with Zeke. I know that he's still a questionable pick after last year and his performance without Dak, but Dak is returning to the field. I feel very confident after seeing the condition that he put himself into throughout this offseason, starting him. Another guy I look to target at that position is Austin Eckler, but because I drafted him in 2 other leagues, I did decide to actually take the flyer and take Ezekiel Elliott. I followed it up with Nick Chubb because I wanted a reliable running back too. I'm actually very surprised that he fell to me. I have him finishing as the running back 8 on the season. So I felt very comfortable taking him, especially with the weak run defense schedule that he has this season. Because I knew Claypool was going to be hit or miss on a weekly basis, I chose to go with Amari Cooper. I know that he's going to have a reliable target share in that offense, and I very much trust him as the wide receiver 1 on my team. I had to follow it up with another receiver, went with Tyler Lockett, someone that I know is going to be a burner, even though some weeks he might hurt, like last season where he had a couple stretches where he was a questionable play and you debated sitting him. I know that he has some big weeks in him, and I trust that the new offensive coordinator there, paired with Russell Wilson and a slight change to that offense, will make Lockett a more reliable option on a weekly basis. I chose to double up in that Cleveland running game, took Kareem Hunt to pair with Nick Chubb. I know that the 2 of them are a dual threat in the backfield, and I feel that's probably the only team in the league where I'd feel comfortable starting both running backs from that team on a weekly basis. And having the 2 of them on the same team where you know both are going to get a ridiculous amount of touches and workload in a single game felt very reliable. Robbie Anderson, I talked a little bit about yesterday, so I won't go too much into it, but reuniting with Sam Darnold, an absolute burner, someone that I'm excited to have in my leagues. Michael Thomas, knowing that we have the IR, I thought he would be on the IR, but he's not, so he will sit on the bench. Later in the draft, I took Marquez Callaway to be the direct handcuff with him. So I still feel confident in Michael Thomas, and knowing that I need a wide receiver with massive upside, if he can return to the form that he had 2 years ago, I'm very comfortable making a deep playoff run, knowing that Michael Thomas can return to a wide receiver 1 or 2 on my team. Most that I took just to get some running back depth. He has the injury history, but he's someone that I'm going to need for crucial weeks where I have a bye. Thankfully, it's week 6 and 7 that my running backs are on bye, so he'll be able to step up early. Hopefully, he does not see an injury up until that point. Herbert, I know Cody talked about him, but I think that he referred more to the value where you had to take Herbert. And seeing him there in the 9th round, it was just too hard to pass him up and to take my quarterback there.
Which is, I don't want to cut you off, but that's really the 10th round considering the keepers. So again, when we talk about these rounds, there's a whole round already ahead of us.
Yeah. So then we had Marquez Callaway. He followed up. Very comfortable taking him, knowing that I had Michael Thomas also on the team. I reached a little bit earlier on him, but once again, I wanted to have that handcuff at wide receiver. McCole Hardman, not a player we talked about much on the avoider target list, but now with Sammy Watkins out of the picture, McCole Hardman will be the 3rd receiving option on this team. And, the Chiefs are going to put up numbers, so it's a player I'm more than happy to take with the value that he's at. Tyler Higbee, another player I talked about yesterday. Matt Stafford in that offense. Love the pick. Love where I was able to take him in the 12th round. Next, we have Russell Gage. Russell Gage will be assuming the role of wide receiver 2 on Atlanta with Julio out of the picture. And someone's going to need to catch the ball inside the 20s. It's going to be Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley leading that offense. But with Mike Davis as running back, they're really going to need to push the ball downfield. As much as I like Mike Davis's workload that he's going to have in this offense, this is the first time he's had a true 3-down back role in an offense, and I just don't trust him at this age to carry the workload like he was able to do for a little bit in Carolina. Next, I took my flyer on Trey Lance. I think he has so much upside this season in his rookie year. That offense is absolutely loaded, a ton of weapons for him to play with for his first year, and I'm very comfortable taking him as my backup quarterback. Singletary, a player that Cody talked about passing on, but at that value with that late in the draft, knowing that I was a little thin at running back, I felt like he was someone that I could just take. I don't know if I will even play him for most of the season, but if I do see injuries with Mostert or to Zeke or anyone on that top of that lineup, it's someone that I could plug in for a week, and I might not be the most confident, but it is a high-scoring offense, so he could find the end zone. Next, we took the Rams defense because I just needed a defense to take. Week 1, they open up with Chicago, and as we all discussed, we think that they're going to blow Chicago out of the water and give a rude awakening to Andy Dalton in that offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Lions, they're going to need a wide receiver 1. We do not know who it's going to be. Hawkinson will obviously be a threat, but I think that taking a rookie at this late in the draft, it's just where he could have a potential a lot of workload. I think it's just a good value at that round. AJ Green, someone we haven't talked about at all, but super late in the draft. He was a wide receiver 1 a few years ago. I doubt he returns to that form, but at that value in that offense, which I think is going to be absolutely elite this year, I just felt comfortable taking him that late in the draft. And then we go to the kicker, Greg the Leg, wanted to pair him up with Amari Cooper and Zeke. So just in case neither of them could find the end zone, I'll get the extra point. And if they can't get into the end zone, you got your kicker for your 3 points.
All right, so you went through your draft. I'm going to kick it to Cody. Now, Cody, what did you like about Nick's draft? What did you not like about his draft? And after you're done, give him a letter grade, A to F.
I talked about Justin Herbert, how I wanted to avoid him at his current ADP. Getting him in the 9th round is a really solid price. I would not be upset about having Justin Herbert in the 9th round anywhere. I actually really like Michael Thomas. He's already got his running backs, his receivers. He took the highest upside player in Michael Thomas. I love that. Like you said, he may have reached a little bit on Marquez Callaway, but he already had Michael Thomas. It covers his bases there. I love the Trey Lance pick. Devin Singletary at that price point, you really can't say much about. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not huge on having both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but like Nick said, it is probably the only backfield where you could play both on a weekly basis. Chubb's going to get the run, all the carries. Hunt's going to get all the passing down work. So, and then obviously he got to keep Chase Claypool. Obviously a huge breakout candidate. That offense is still going to have to throw the ball. Their defense got a little worse. So I actually really like his team. I think he's balanced everywhere. There's no real weakness. I'm not a huge fan of Mostert, but he is a starting running back. He's going to have some big weeks. It's just, can he avoid the injury bug? I would give I'd give it a B. Solid B.
It's fair. It's very fair. My thoughts on Nick's draft. So first off, Nick sniped Marquez Callaway and Trey Lance for me right before me, right the picks I wanted to take him. I got Callaway in my dynasty league. I wish we had done this draft like a week or two earlier because I was all in on Callaway weeks ago. But a solid draft all around. I love the 2 running backs going right off the board. I'm not a Zeke guy. I had him last year. I actually like Zeke. I'm a Zeke guy, meaning that I like the player. However, I don't like him in fantasy because I don't trust the Cowboys' injury situation. I don't trust Dak at the moment. I need to see what his injury status is. I need to see what Cooper's is. And I'm saying this as an owner of Dak and Cooper in 2 other leagues, which contradicts myself. But at the same time, I would have rather had other running backs at the moment. I know Nick mentioned that he took Eckler in other leagues. I'll speak about that with my draft, about the running back that I have in 3 leagues now. But I love Chubb. I love Chubb. I've been talking to Nick over the past few weeks about this draft, as we do every year, and he was talking about passing on Chubb. And in the back of my head, I'm like, please pass on Chubb. He did not. I love Cooper. I just said the injury thing, but if he's healthy, I love Cooper, I should say. If Dak and Cooper are healthy, I love Cooper. I'm not huge on Lockett, even though I'm a Seahawks fan. I think that he's the number 2, and he's going to give you like 2 or 3 big games. But aside from that, I'm not super high on Lockett. Michael Thomas, I'm not super high on, but again, like if he bounces back, like Nick said, that's a top 5 wide receiver in the league if he bounces back for playoff time. I love his sleepers. I love Russell Gage. I think he's a sleeper that I've had pegged for a while. That's a number 2 that I think is going to get a lot of balls thrown his way. Trey Lance, I think, is going to take that job over within 8-10 weeks. When you're getting a tight end late, Tyler Higbee, I think that's a good one right there. So overall, I think Nick had a really solid draft. Just a couple different players that I would have switched out. Kareem Hunt's not bad value, especially when you have Nick Chubb. I think Lockett's the one pick that I'm not the biggest fan of, and Mostert, but he kind of burned me last year. I don't trust Kyle Shanahan. I don't trust him with 1 running back. I could trust Mostert getting you 80 yards to the 1-inch line, and then here comes Kyle Juszczyk to vulture that touchdown. So I think Cody's right on the money. I think a B's right there. I think I'd be a B- a little bit. I think I'd go the minus since I'm a tougher grader. But I think that's where we're standing. I think this is a team that has the right pieces there and a lot of upside, and you got to hope for no injuries and to play that waiver wire. But overall, pretty solid draft, I think, from Nick at least. Cody, let's kick it to you and let's talk about your draft a little bit. So talk about your draft strategy going into it, how that could have changed. And you could run through all your players. You could run through your favorite players, whatever you want to do. Let's hear about your draft.
So going in, after joining this league, I knew I was at a disadvantage with my keeper. My keeper options were not good. They were awful, actually. Michael Gallup being the best player far and away, whereas other people got premier players.
So I don't want to cut you off real quick. So some of the other keeper options were Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Gibson, James Robinson, Terry McLaurin. Poor Cody is the 10th man in our league that just joined, and he got handed the 10th pick and a team that really did not have a keeper. So he's not joking. Like Gallup really was the best keeper out there.
It was the best, and it was not even close. When I looked at the team, I was like, it's Michael Gallup. It has to be. Which he's okay with Dak. If Dak's healthy, he might be playable a couple weeks. Their defense is going to be bad. It's going to be the Fantasy Carnival version 2 this year. But knowing that I needed to shoot for upside, I was shocked to see Saquon Barkley there at 10 overall. I snatched him up with open arms, and the same goes for my second-round pick, Tyreek Hill. I was not expecting him to be there. Personally, I wanted Aaron Jones to fall to me. He went the pick at pick 9. I wanted to go Barkley Jones just because I love Aaron Jones in that offense without Jamal Williams. He's going to catch 50, 60 balls this year, PPR machine. Coming back, I knew I needed running backs. Just because running back position, it falls off a cliff, and it falls off a cliff early. I like Miles Sanders as a bounce-back candidate this year. And then at the turn to start round 4, I was debating between a couple players. I went David Montgomery. I've always been a Monty fan. Brad Evans got me on David Montgomery from the start. It started rough. It started real bad. He finally got going later on in the year last year, and he really turned out. I think he ended with 6 100-yard rushing games for the season. Only 2 or 3 backs had more. Obviously, you just don't know what it's going to be like this year. I expect him to throw more when Fields takes over. And then in the 5th round, I had to go with Jerry Judy. I talk about him every chance I get. I think he is a true breakout star at wide receiver, especially with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. He's going to look his way early, often, everywhere on the field. And then I did something I don't normally do. In the 6th round, Kyle Pitts was staring me in the face. I don't own him anywhere besides one dynasty league. So I took him. The guy is an absolute matchup nightmare. I don't know if he's going to slot right into the Julio Jones role, but that's what I'm hearing. And if he does, the 6th round is too low for a freak like Kyle Pitts. I'm happy to take the flyer on him there. There wasn't anybody else in that range that I really wanted. And then in the 7th round, I'm all about Deebo Samuel. I was off of him last year. He was being overdrafted. This year, I'm back in. He got hurt last year, sadly, but he is just such a talent. He's going to get some carries out of the backfield. He catches the ball, the wide receiver screens. Kyle Shanahan is a magician on offense. He's right up there with Sean Payton and Sean McVay as just the best offensive minds in football. Kyle Shanahan finds ways to get everyone involved, creative ways to get him the ball in space. I love Deebo Samuel. Round 8, I went with Antonio Brown. Something tells me that this dude still has like one great season left. He was okay last year. Dude come from his couch in the middle of the season and played well down the stretch, got him a Super Bowl ring. I honestly could see a scenario where he is the number 1 Tampa Bay receiver at the end of the season, just because they're going to utilize him a lot around the line of scrimmage. He's going to catch probably over 100 balls because really the offense is going to run just directly through Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. And then in the 9th round, this is when I started swinging for a lot of the running back with upside. I went Trey Sermon. I've already talked about Kyle Shanahan. I think Trey Sermon will start sooner rather than later. He's so gifted, and that run offense is so good. I can't wait till we see Trey Sermon with Trey Lance. And that running back duo is going to be just incredible. In the 10th round, I went with A.J. Dillon. I said early I wanted to get Aaron Jones in the 2nd. A.J. Dillon, to me, is the best handcuff in football, and he is better than a handcuff, in my opinion. He's going to get 10 to 12 carries a week. He's not going to get the Jamal Williams role because he's not going to catch the ball. He can't catch. But he is going to get some rushing attempts. So I like him. And if Aaron Jones was to go down, A.J. Dillon is a top 5 running back. In that offense, he's going to be incredible if something was to happen to Aaron Jones, who has been bit by the injury bug in his career. Then I tell everyone I wait on quarterback. I don't overextend. In the 11th round, everyone else in the league has a quarterback. Jalen Hurts falls directly into my lap. I'm not super excited to have him and Miles Sanders, but that offense is going to be run-oriented. I think Hurts will help Sanders. Sanders will help Hurts. I just hope they don't kind of cancel each other out and hurt each other down around the goal line, but it's probably going to happen. It's just the way the draft went down. I probably should have taken Stafford because I own Hurts in so many other leagues, but just his rushing upside it tilts the pendulum in his way over Stafford. Round 12, Noah Fant, he shouldn't be there. I took him at round 12. It's just too good a value to pass up there. Not sure if he's going to be healthy. He's already got a bum wheel. He's dealt with ankle injuries his entire career, it seems like. The guy is such a freak athlete. I hate seeing him continue to have ankle problems. I hope he gets healthy and can play because this offense in Denver is going to surprise some people. And then in round 13, every chance I get, I talk about Justin Fields. he is my quarterback too that I love. I target him everywhere because I truly believe he will win fantasy championships for anyone that drafts him. If you have a solid quarterback to just bridge the gap until he starts starting. And then around 14, I went Sterling Shepard. For me, Daniel Jones loves looking his way. He's going to get hurt. It's just bound to happen. I hope it's not a concussion because he's had too many. One more probably in his career. But he's got such great hands. He's Daniel Jones' security blanket. In the 14th round, I'll take a flyer on him. In the 15th round, you heard me talk about Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman. I missed out on Pittman. I did not miss out on Paris Campbell. In the 15th, it's high upside, no risk, no reward, or no risk, high reward. Sorry, and that's all I really care about that deep in the draft. Round 16, I went Rashad Penny. Chris Carson's a fantastic running back. He's not been able to stay healthy. That's been his issue his entire career. Rashad Penny is a fantastic runner who also cannot stay healthy. I'm hoping this is the year he can finally pull it off because I love watching him play. He has such great vision running behind the line. In the 17th round, I didn't want to miss out on all the quality defenses. I usually wait until the last 2 rounds to take defensive kickers, but having the last pick in the draft, I didn't want to be left with the remnants that nobody else wanted. So I went with the Dolphins defense. I think they're going to be really underrated. Their pass defense is going to be great. Their first round pick, Jason Phillips, I believe, is a supreme pass rusher. They're going to get sacks. I think they're going to push for close to 50. And then you're just hoping to get quite a bit of turnovers. 18th round, got the Miami defense. Why not just get the Miami kicker? They kick a lot of field goals. They move the ball. It's hard for them to get in the end zone. I like Jason Sanders. I was debating between him and Ryan Suckup of the Tampa Bay Bucks just because that offense is going to move the ball as well. I went with Sanders just because I feel like he has a little more upside. And then in the 19th round, or the last round of our draft, the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, I took a flyer on Anthony Ferkser. I don't know if he's going to get the volume to be a consistent starter. I actually don't expect him to be a consistent starter, but if for some reason Julio goes down, I mean, Julio's probably going to go down. Anthony Ferkser should get some more targets, and with the last round, the last pick, I'm going to take a flyer on a guy that could turn out to be a quality starter if things break the right way.
All right. Thank you, Cody. Nick, give me your thoughts on Cody's draft.
So I think the first thing you can notice right off the bat is that the ceiling on this team, there is none. There's so many players from, right at the top with Saquon, who could finish as a top 3 running back, Tyreek Hill, who will finish as a top 3 receiver if he stays healthy. You started off your draft immediately with a guy that's going to be locked in as potentially a top 3 at each of those positions. At the 10th pick, you cannot be more ecstatic than starting out like that. I'm always a big fan of doubling up on running back to start the draft, but since you were able to land someone like Tyreek Hill with Saquon, I'm extremely comfortable with that, especially knowing in the next 2 rounds, you doubled up on running back with 2 guys that are going to have a massive workload in not the best offense in the league, but, the workload is going to be there for the 2 of them. Jerry Judy, we all know the upside with him. He's an extremely good talent, and he's someone I was praying for the Jets to draft. And then my little brother, who's also a Broncos fan, had to abuse me about it, but that's a conversation for another day. And a supreme talent with Teddy Bridgewater, I feel very comfortable with him, very reliable. The sky's the limit for him. Kyle Pitts is the guy that I'm constantly looking to target at tight end in that round. If you in the 6th round can land Kyle Pitts, I think it's a very good value, especially if you can get 2 of your running backs and 2 of your wide receivers out of the way with one of your flex options. I think Cody did an excellent job with this, landed Tyreek, Jerry Judy, got his flex play with one of those 2 running backs, and then Saquon Sanders to start it off. Kyle Pitts has the moon as his ceiling. I am extremely comfortable with him. I truly believe that this draft, I'm going to give it a B+. I don't want to break down everything, but we all know Trey Sermon was the guy I had number 1. For my sleeper. He stole him right before me. I had him queued right up at the top. And he took him on the turn. But it's all good. A.J. Dillon, sky's the limit. Jalen Hurts, same exact thing, rushing upside. This team has a ton of upside in between that 6th and that 20th pick, and we all know that those top 5 guys are going to be reliable on a weekly basis. I'm going to give it a B+, and I'd feel very scared facing this team on any given week, especially week 1 when I have to see.
Yeah, we play week 1, obviously.
Yeah, that'll be fun next week. Before I give my thoughts, I just need to make a quick phone call. Yeah, I'm gonna need the police because Tyreek Hill at number 10, 11 is highway robbery. We let Tyreek Hill go to number 11. That's robbery to the highest degree. All 9 of us need to go to prison. That is ridiculous.
And
my debate with Nick.
And we get the bonus points for
this league has ridiculous bonuses. Tyreek Hill scored 75 points last year. This isn't a joke. 1 week, 75 fantasy points.
Thanks for the reminder, Nick.
One play, 150-yard play in this league for Tyreek Hill is like 16 fantasy points. A touchdown, 50 yards, that's 16 fantasy points. I spoke to Nick weeks ago about taking Tyreek Hill at number 6. I came really, 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 really close. I think if I had the 7 pick, I would have taken him. I couldn't take him over Jonathan Taylor, but that's ridiculous that Cody got him at 11. It's ridiculous. And Saquon at number 10, you can't go wrong with those number 2. I think you could go wrong with Miles Sanders. I'm not a Miles Sanders guy. I'm afraid of the committee. I'm afraid of the offense. I'm not crazy about it. You need the running backs, though. He doubled up there. I like Montgomery. I don't really like the offense or the line. I think their line is terrible. But you need the running backs. I love Judy. I love Pitts. I love Debo. You can't go wrong with any of those 3. I was really close to taking Pitts. Antonio Brown's a head case, but when he's on the field, he's Antonio Brown. Sermon, A.J. Dillon, the upside's right there. I spoke about Mostert with Nick, so Sermon's right there. I'm not going to run through the rest of the draft because I think he really nailed a couple of those sleepers. Shepard, Campbell, I think they're guys that could produce. If not, they're going back on the waiver wire. Cody waited for his quarterback and got the guy that he wanted. I know he loves Hurts. I know he loves Fields, so he got all the guys he wanted, and then he still got those 2. Rashad Penny may not be a Seahawk by the end of the season. I'm a Seahawks fan, and Alex Collins looks really, really good in preseason. So we'll see about Penny. But again, round 16, it doesn't matter at that point. I'm also giving him a B+. Nick stole the rating right before me for a team that started with Michael Gallup. Like, I'm not looking at Gallup. I'm looking at the other guys. I don't even have to look at Gallup. He didn't need a keeper because he's got Tyreek Hill who's going to drop 25 a week at pick 11, and Barkley, who everybody's afraid of an injury, he's going to be dropping another 20. So I'm not really thrilled that those guys fell to Cody because now I got some real competition. But solid B+ for Cody, in my opinion. Very well done for somebody who had everything going against them. So now it's my turn. Now this is my draft that I'm going to talk about. So I had the 6th pick in this 10-man league. My keeper was Justin Jefferson. I was very happy to keep him. He was in the 13th round or whatever. I got him last year. So I think he's going to be a solid receiver for me this year. And that allowed me to kind of tweak my draft strategy where I could take a running back definitely in the first round. And I have Jonathan Taylor in not 1, not 2, but 3 fantasy leagues. So Jonathan Taylor, please, 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 please rest up, take your vitamins, stretch, do yoga, whatever you got to do. Nothing happening to you. Colts, please protect him. Give him a lot. Give him the ball at the goal line, please, because that's my fantasy team right there is Jonathan Taylor in 3 different leagues. I was happy to get him at 6, though. Najee Harris fell to me at number 13. Where did I pick? 15. I didn't mock Najee Harris once. Not once. I don't think he was available in most of my mocks. I saw him there. I know I have Justin Jefferson. I don't love the pick. I love the position. I think they're going to have to lean on the running back, especially with Big Ben having a new injury every week. He's going to go out there like the fish in SpongeBob that's scamming people for chocolate with the bandages all around him. So that's going to be Big Ben. And hopefully he's handing the ball off to Najee Harris a lot. That's my hope at least. So that's Najee. I took Robert Woods in the 3rd round. I spoke about him on the show that how much I really, really loved him. I kind of wish I had taken Cooper, but I still think Robert Woods is going to have an 1,000-yard season and 7-8 touchdowns at Matthew Stafford. I'm not happy that the Seahawks have to play this guy, and Woods is going to have some monster games. Round 4, another receiver, Chris Godwin. He's a guy that I pegged 2-3 years ago as my breakout, and he broke out pretty big with Jameis when he had that 30 for 30 season, 30 picks, 30 touchdowns. And I think Godwin, he was a little banged up last year, but I think he's a guy that Brady can rely on. I just don't think Mike Evans is a Brady receiver. I think he's still going to get his touches. Mike Evans will have his games where he has 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he'll have his games where he has 28 yards and nothing else. But I think Godwin's the guy that can be really, really consistent for that Bucs offense. So that's why I decided to go with Godwin. Javonte Williams is a guy in round 5 who I've gotten in now 3 leagues. I'm really hoping he pans out because, again, in 3 leagues, he's my running back 3. So I think he's going to have that starting job in Denver. I have him in my dynasty league that I'm really happy about. So I'm hoping that he's a guy that does pan out. Otto Beckham Jr., I still think he's so talented. I know he's coming off the injury. I expect him to start slow. I'm not expecting much from weeks 1 to 4. But 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, get me to the playoffs. You have to throw the ball a little bit on that team to keep them balanced. I think the Browns are going to be a really, really good football team. That's not a sentence that you could say 5 years ago. If I said that 5 years ago, you'd ask me, are you on marijuana? Are you on meth? Like what are you smoking at this point? But I think the Browns going to be a really good football team, and I think he's in great shape according to what we've heard in camp. I know he hasn't taken a lot of reps, but physically I think he's in great shape from what we know. So I'm hoping that he returns to form a little bit, and if he does, in the 6th round as my wide receiver 4, I'll take that any day of the week. Round 7, right there, that guy. Wrong side. That guy right there. That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback in 2 fantasy leagues. That's my quarterback every single week. That's the quarterback that 1 year is going to win MVP. Maybe this year. Maybe they'll let him cook this year for 16 games instead of just 8. Maybe this year they'll protect him. Probably not, 'cause it's probably going to be a bunch of turnstiles like it has been for the past 10 years. But if they protect this guy, they let him throw the ball, Russell Wilson's going to have a monster year. So I'm very comfortable taking him at round 7 when all those other quarterbacks are going. I think Lamar and Dak had just went. So I'm very comfortable taking Russ right there. Number 8 is Corey Davis. Actually, I'm going to give a little shout out to my friend Tom, who gave me a hot tip on this one. He knocked me yesterday for not taking him in a 12-man draft, and I actually took his advice. I think he's going to get a lot of targets, catch a lot of balls from Zach Wilson. So, again, my wide receiver was at 5, 6 at this point. I'm fine with taking Corey Davis and hoping that he pans out with that Jets offense. Round 9, Darno Mooney. Cody spoke about him yesterday. I knew Cody was right about to take him. I had to take him because I love him. Again, I have him in 3 leagues now. Another one that I hope pans out. I hope that Justin Fields is throwing him the ball within 4 or 5 weeks. Number 10 is Jamal Williams. I spoke about him on our first show as somebody that I think could even take that starting role from DeAndre Swift if he gets hurt or steals goal line carry. So with my running back 4, I'm very comfortable having Jamal Williams there on my bench and have to sub him in 1 week for a bye week or an injury or something like that. Round 11, I reached up like 30 picks or so, but at this point, the draft board is kind of wonky with defenses being ranked and all that, but Terrence Marshall Jr. is getting rave reviews from camp. He looks like the guy in Carolina next to DJ Moore, and I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I think he's somebody that could be a PPR machine, and he's a rookie, so there's no telling if he'll pan out, but I got Justin Jefferson last year in round 13, and he panned out. I'm not saying Terrence Marshall is going to have 1,300 yards, but he could have 800, 5 touchdowns, something like that. I hope he could do something, even 600 yards. Let's bump it down. 600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. I'd be very happy with that one. I needed a tight end. I took Jonnu Smith. I spoke about it on the last episode on Mac Jones will rely on his tight ends. I had spoken about Hunter Henry. I decided to go with Jonnu Smith due to Henry being a little bit injury prone at times. So at this round, I'm comfortable. Round 12, I needed a tight end. I went with Jonnu Smith. Round 13, Gabriel Davis, another one of my sleepers that I talked about. I think that Bills offense is going to go berserk. They're going to average 35, 40 a week. It's not just going to be the Stephon Diggs show all game long. Somebody else has to score. Somebody else has to get 6 targets a game. I think it's going to be Gabriel Davis as that number 2, leaping Cole Beasley. We don't know how many games he's going to miss due to COVID with his elaborate stance at this point when it comes to that. So I think Gabriel Davis could be leaps and bounds above the other receivers on that team. Round 14, I wanted Trey Lance. Nick took Trey Lance right before me. So I took the other rookie. I took Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence has a nice triplet of receivers there with DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, and Marvin Jones. So I think Trevor's going to throw a lot of balls. I think he's going to play from behind a lot. The Jaguars team is not very good, but I think he's going to throw close to 3,500 yards at least. And he's a backup. I'll slot him when Russell Wilson isn't playing. So when you have Russell Wilson, you don't really need to worry about a backup. But Trevor will be a lot of fun to watch. Round 15, Rondelle Moore, just a flyer on a rookie in Arizona. Maybe he has some chemistry with Kyler. Maybe he doesn't. It's a rookie. We'll see what happens. Round 16, the Browns defense, I think, could be the best defense in the league next to the Rams and the Steelers. They'll all be right there. But the Browns defense upgraded. They signed a safety, Jerron Johnson, and they have good corners. They have Myles Garrett. I'm not playing them week one. They're going to play the Chiefs, so I'm not playing them week one. My 17th round pick is Austin Hooper, who I'm actually going to drop for another defense. The Packers probably to play New Orleans for week one, but I'm very happy with the Browns defense in that round. Round 18, I've really reached on Nico Collins, who's gotten pretty good reviews in camp with the Texans. He could be the number 2 next to Brandon Cooks. Again, it's round 18 at this point. Whatever happens. He could not be on my roster in 2 weeks, or maybe he does something pretty good. Round 19, you see these? For the viewers, I have glasses. I've had glasses my whole life. Hot Rod, Rodrigo Blankenship has a great look. He's a fun kicker to play. I had him last year for a couple weeks. The Colts are going to kick a lot of field goals. I don't think they're scoring many touchdowns. And if they do, it better be Jonathan Taylor. He's got to get all those touchdowns. I don't want any throwing touchdowns. I want field goals, and I want Jonathan Taylor touchdowns for the Colts. So I hope the Seahawks beat the Colts 50-48 week one. I hope Russell Wilson throws 6 touchdowns. I have DK on another team, so all 6 of those touchdowns can go to DK. And I hope the Colts score a lot of touchdowns and a couple field goals, and that's what I would hope for week one. So that's my fantasy team. Let's go to Cody first. Cody, your thoughts on my draft?
I think it's a really solid draft. Being able to go Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris back to back to start the draft off. You already had Justin Jefferson as your keeper. That's a wide receiver 1. Easy. Set it and forget it. Don't worry about it. Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, both of them, their best football is in front of them. Those are the running backs I like to target. I don't like targeting guys that are old. Luckily, I didn't have any shares of Le'Veon Bell when he went full train wreck.
Yeah, I wonder who drafted Le'Veon Bell as a Jet. I mean, who would have taken a flyer on Le'Veon Bell as a Jet?
And same thing with Gurley last year when he went to Atlanta. No, thank you. I like targeting running backs that are young, that are hungry, that haven't been just beaten down by the weekly schedule of the NFL. And Nick got 2 great ones in Jonathan Taylor, who should carry a ridiculous workload for the Colts. Najee Harris, I'm not going to be surprised at all if he catches 40 balls. He's going to run. I don't know how well it's going to go behind that offensive line. It's bad. But I think the catches will even out the bad weeks. He has massive upside, though. Robert Woods, Chris Godwin, great receivers, especially PPR. Javonte Williams, I'm a massive fan. I fully expect him to be the starter by the end of October, if not sooner. Just a fantastic runner. His balance is incredible. Kid is super talented. I love him. Nick knows I love him. He took him right in front of me.
I think Cody was going with him next. I think Cody was going with him next, so I figured I had to scoop him up right there.
I don't mind Odell. A lot of guys that you drafted later on have a lot of upside. You spoke on Gabriel Davis, Jonnu Smith, Terrace Marshall Jr., arguably the best LSU receiver the year they just went nuts with Burrow. He was very, very good. People just sleep on him because he was kind of the one that was left out from the big 3. Trevor Lawrence, their defense is terrible. He's going to throw the ball a ton, and he offers a little bit of rushing ability that most people don't think about. I love the Jamal Williams pick in the 10th. Everyone's talking about how he's going to get work. He's going to play. Swift's already kind of banged up a little bit. Mooney, obviously, I'm over the moon for the guy. I love the pick. Snap me again. The Browns defense, I actually really like that pick. They brought in Jadeveon Clowney for that defensive line. Nasty front seven. Rough matchup week 1, but you can always bypass that. It ain't that big of a deal. I really like the team. Nick knows I'm not huge on taking quarterbacks very early, but Nick's a Seahawks guy. He's got to get his guy, so I can't say too much. I like the draft. I think he's really balanced. I don't see any glaring weakness besides maybe tight end, but I think Jonnu Smith could push for a back end tight end 1 role, and if he's able to get that, I think Nick's set up pretty well. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the same thing. I'm gonna give both Nicks a B.
All right, Nick. Thank you for that, Cody. Appreciate it. Nick, your thoughts on my draft?
So Nick, in my opinion, got the biggest sleeper in the draft in Justin Jefferson in the 20th round. But besides that, we'll just talk about
Nobody wanted him. No, he was undrafted. He went undrafted.
Yeah,
and was picked up by the Vikings. Just nobody wanted the guy. It must be, I don't know, off the field issues or something, because nobody wanted him.
I'm glad you got him, because I got
too small. Too small.
Too small. Must have been. So 2 years ago, I said Christian McCaffrey would finish as the running back 1. He winded up doing it. Dalvin Cook, I was very high on last year, finishing as the RB1, finished at the RB2. Jonathan Taylor 2 months ago was the guy I had finishing at RB2 on this season. I think the year 2 breakout was bound to happen, but I'm a little too concerned with the Colts injuries. Where Nick did land him, I'm very happy to take him, and I think the upside is there should Quentin Nelson get healthy, although they are on their 3rd string left tackle at the moment, which is very concerning, especially knowing Wentz is already injured. He has a very massive injury history, and that's the blind side that he's going to be getting hit off of. I'm a little concerned about the team, but I think the upside for Jonathan Taylor still is there should the team be able to stay healthy. Najee Harris is going to have a clear workload in a team that constantly finishes as a top 5 offense in terms of usage, in terms of yardage. The guys in that Steelers offense for the past few years have finished at the top consistently. So Najee Harris, 2nd round, RB2, extremely confident with that. Knowing that you have Justin Jefferson as your wide receiver 1 makes me feel very confident with you having Robert Woods at the 2 and then Godwin playing in your flex. I think that Godwin in the flex is going to be what wins you most of your weeks. You don't have you probably have one of the lower end starting tight ends in the league. But you winded up taking the quarterback a little bit earlier. So you should have, a weekly basis where you're going to hang at quarterback, but where you might slip at tight end, I think that you make up for it in the flex in a big way with Chris Godwin. Javonte Williams clearly has the upside. He probably will not break into those top 2 running backs, but on a bye week, I think that he becomes a very reliable option for those 2 guys, especially, I don't remember when Najee's bye week is, but Jonathan Taylor all the way in week 14. So you got a long time before Javonte Williams.
I think Najee is 7, if I'm correct. I think him and Jefferson are both 7, if my mind and eyes remember correctly.
Yeah, so Javonte shouldn't see the lineup too much to start. I imagine Odell will take the starting role to start the season over Javonte. And I think Odell, one of these seasons, is going to be the league winner. What year? We don't know. I'm very comfortable taking him. But, I think Odell Beckham will be a league winner one of these next few seasons. I think it could be this year. This is the year it could be that Cleveland Browns offense has been rolling. And I think it's very possible that Stefanski in year 2 figures out how to.
So, Nick, did you drink before this podcast?
No, I did not drink.
Nick just complimented the Cleveland Browns. Nick hates the Cleveland Browns. Nick hates the Cleveland Browns.
I do hate the Browns.
You draft a whole bunch of Browns.
Yeah, I just drafted both the running backs, but it is what it is. I love Odell. In my opinion, in terms of talent, when the man's healthy, he's still a top 10 wide receiver in this league. I think the talent's there. I think the opportunity is there in that offense. I think Nick has a very good ceiling, and I think he has a very comfortable floor. That's something that I think that me and Cody might struggle with a little bit at the beginning of the season with more of our upside guys, but I think Nick starts with a very safe floor. A couple of the guys that he really liked later on, Darno Mooney, Jamal Williams, Gabriel Davis, Terrence Marshall, a bunch of those later guys that he was really high on, he was able to land. So, if 1 or 2 of them wind up panning out and being the player that he hopes, this team has the same thing as Cody. The sky's the limit. I'm going to match the grade that I gave Cody. I'm going to give him a solid B+ on this draft.
Sounds like we're all pretty happy with our draft. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. And thank you all for listening to this show. And thank you all. I want to do a quick thank you for this too. I want to thank everybody that listened to our first episode and interacted on Twitter, Instagram, shared it, texted me personally. I don't know if you guys got personal text, but a couple of my friends did text me and give us some good feedback. So I really appreciated that. I really appreciated you guys helping to make that first show a big success. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting us and to continue to support us. So for those out there that do want to support us going forward, please listen to us every single Tuesday, every Friday. The audio you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor by searching Primetime Fantasy Podcast. We'll be right there. If you're on Apple, please do a 5-star review and a rating. Those actually do help a lot. So please do that. And then on social media, please give us a follow. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at PrimeTimeFFPod. We're going to be posting a lot more content, especially when the season rolls around. Some polls. We're going to do stardom sit-em. We're going to answer your questions. If you have any draft questions or even stardom sit-ems, we'll answer those happily on our social media. We also have a Facebook page, Primetime Fantasy Football. You could give us a like on there. We'd really appreciate that. So the show is going to do every Tuesday, every Friday. The audio again that I told you about, and the video is going to be on YouTube. We work really, really hard on the video portion of it, so that's on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, live every single Sunday starting week 1, 11 a.m. Eastern time to 12 a.m. Eastern time, right when those the 90 minutes kick in before who's out, who's inactive, who's not. So we're going to be live. We'll talk about who's inactive. You could ask us any questions. Stardom sit-em. If you have a lineup question, maybe we'll even pull up your lineup. If you want to send it to me on Twitter, we could do that. And we'll do daily fantasy too. So again, that's going to be on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for the live show every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to kick it to Cody. Cody, any social media or anything you would like to plug or final messages before we get out of here?
If you're interested in some daily fantasy content, whether it be, NFL is about to kick off. If you're interested in MLB, MMA, golf, anything, it's going to pick up big once NFL kicks off. That's when I really get into daily fantasy. But that's really all I ever talk about on Twitter. Obviously, that's going to change with this pod we got going on here. We're going to get into a little bit more, but you can follow me on Twitter. The @ is just CRepassDFS. But I can't even tell you guys how excited I am for the live portion on Sundays and to get into all this DFS content, stardom, sit-em. I can't wait for the trash talk when the season starts, and I'm coming for blood. I come in with the garbage can keeper. I don't even care though. I'm gonna do what Brock Lesnar said. I'm gonna turn chicken crap into chicken salad.
Nick, any parting words for the listeners?
Yeah, super excited for this podcast. I like the trio we got going on here. I'm excited for our future. As we said, Sundays we will be going live and we will answer questions there that are mentioned in the chat. But if you want to send in questions early, feel free to comment on any social media. We'll take note of it. DM us if you have a question. Yeah, you can check out our Linktree in our Instagram bio, on our Twitter, on our Facebook. You can find that link on any of our platforms. Check it out. Find the best ways to reach us. We will answer any question that we get. Do not worry. Your questions will be answered here. Super excited to see how the season goes. Super excited for how our drafts went. And I'm looking forward to kicking Cody's ass in week 1.
I'll do you one better. If you want, if you guys want, if you have lineup questions, you send us your full lineup. We'll put it in a graphic and we'll tell you who you should play. So we'll do that. And going forward, even if you have a question you want to, not week 1, but as the weeks go on, if you want to get your face out there and get 15 minutes of fame, send us a question, an audio file, video file, a clean video file with a clean question. We'll play it on the show. We'll play your video on the show and we'll answer your question. That'll be coming up in a few weeks. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @TheNickGiacobi. I interact with just about everything, every topic that I care about, whether it's sports, wrestling, Marvel, DC, superheroes, Star Wars, movies, like whatever it is, I'll interact about it. And you can find the show on social media that I told you about. We're also going to post our draft, all 3 draft graphics that you saw here to Twitter and Instagram. So I will post it with a poll and let us know who you think had the best draft, because we do want to interact with you guys and to get more. Yeah, you're pointing to me. You're pointing to me. So
I meant to go that
way. So we do appreciate that. So thank you guys for all the interaction that you've given us already, and we're excited to keep growing the show and to keep helping you guys prevail throughout this fantasy football season. That's been Nick Capsalis. That's Cody Reefes. I'm Nick Giacobbe. We're the Primetime Football Fantasy Podcast. We'll talk to you guys next Tuesday to talk about opening kickoff Thursday. It's like a week away. I'm very excited. They're excited.
Christmas.
It's Christmas morning. We'll talk to you guys next week.